Hey everyone, if you're receiving Social Security SSI or SSDI benefits, I need you to stop what you're doing right now because what I'm about to share with you could directly impact your next check. President Trump just signed new legislation for September 30th, and I've been diving deep into the 200-page report, so you don't have to. I'm here because I know many of you are struggling to make ends meet, and you deserve to know exactly what's happening with your benefits without having to decode complicated government language. Whether you're a single mom trying to stretch every dollar, a veteran dealing with service-connected disabilities, or someone who's worked their whole life only to find yourself needing assistance, this affects you. So, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's break down everything you need to know about these changes that could be showing up in your mailbox and bank account sooner than you think. Let me start by explaining what this new legislation is trying to accomplish. The Social Security Enhancement Act of 2025 has three main goals, and I want to make sure you understand each one because they matter for your family's financial security. First, they're addressing the cost of living adjustments that frankly haven't been keeping up with real inflation. You know this better than anyone. Your grocery bill, your rent, your utilities have all gone up, but your benefits, they've been playing catch-up. This legislation aims to change that calculation method. Second, they're streamlining the disability determination process. I can't tell you how many of you have written to me about waiting months or even years for SSDI approvals while you're unable to work. The new law includes provisions to speed this up and reduce the bureaucratic maze. Third, and this is huge for many of you, they're expanding eligibility for certain programs and increasing asset limits that haven't changed in decades. Some of these limits were set when a gallon of gas cost under $2. Think about that for a minute. Now, let's talk about who this impacts because I want you to know if you need to pay attention to the details I'm about to share. If you're receiving Social Security retirement benefits, this affects you. The new COLA calculation method will apply to your monthly payments, starting with the January 2026 checks. For those of you on SSI supplemental security income, you're looking at some of the biggest changes. The asset limits are finally getting updated. Instead of the current $2,000 limit for individuals and $3,000 for couples, we're looking at $10,000 and $20,000, respectively. This means you can actually save a little money without losing your benefits. SSDI recipients, your changes focus mainly on the application and appeal process, but there are also benefit calculation adjustments that could mean more money in your pocket. Veterans receiving disability compensation alongside Social Security, there are specific provisions that prevent benefit reductions that some of you have been experiencing due to overlap issues. Single parents, this is especially important for you because the changes to how we count household income could mean you qualify for benefits you previously couldn't get or that your current benefits might increase. And for those of you who are unemployed and receiving Social Security, the new rules about work incentives are designed to help you transition back into the workforce without immediately losing all your benefit. All right, let's get into the meat of what's actually changing. And I'm going to break this down in plain English because the government sure didn't write it that way. Starting in 2026, instead of using the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners, they're switching to the Consumer Price Index for the elderly. This is significant because seniors and disabled individuals spend money differently than working-age people. You spend more on healthcare, prescription drugs, and housing assistance. The new calculation should better reflect your actual expenses. What does this mean in dollars? Based on preliminary estimates, this could mean an additional $15 to $45 per month for the average Social Security recipient. It doesn't sound like a fortune, but over a year, we're talking about $180 to $540 more in your pocket. For SSI recipients, this is probably the biggest win. The $2,000 individual limit hasn't changed since 1989. Think about that. In 1989, $2,000 could cover several months of expenses. Today, it barely covers 1 month's rent in most places. The new limits of $10,000 for individuals and $20,000 for couples mean you can actually build a small emergency fund without losing your benefit. You can save for your kids, school supplies, keep money aside for car repairs, or build a cushion for unexpected expenses. For SSDI applications, they're implementing what they call fast-track processing for certain conditions. If you have one of 200 specified severe conditions, your application should be processed within 60 days instead of the current 3 to 6 month wait time. They're also expanding telemedicine options for disability evaluations, which means less travel and more convenience, especially if you're dealing with mobility issues or live in a rural area. I always like to balance the realistic expectations with some genuinely good news, and there's plenty here. First, these changes are retroactive in some cases. If your SSDI application was denied in the past 12 months and you fit the new criteria, you can request a review without starting the entire process over. Second, the work incentive programs are getting a major overhaul. The trial work period is being extended and the income limits before benefit reduction are increasing. This means if you're able to work part-time, you can earn more money without immediately losing your Social Security benefits. Third, and this is huge for families, the child's benefit calculations are being updated. If you're receiving Social Security and have dependent children, their benefits are calculated based on your benefit amount. The new formula could increase these payments by 10 to 15% in many cases. For veterans, there's specific good news too. The legislation includes provisions that prevent Social Security from reducing your benefits dollar for dollar based on your VA disability compensation. This was a problem that affected thousands of disabled veterans who are essentially being penalized for their service. Let's talk about when you'll actually see these changes, because I know many of you are wondering if this affects your next check. The asset limit changes for SSI take effect January 1, 2026. However, they're not going to suddenly cut people off who are currently over the old limits. There's a 6-month grace period to allow people to adjust. The new COLA calculation starts with the 2026 benefits year. So, your first check with the new calculation method will be in January 2026. The streamlined disability process begins in phases starting November 1, 2025. The fast-track processing will apply to new applications by March 1, 2026. It extends to appeals and reviews. Here's what you need to do right now. Absolutely nothing dramatic. Don't make any major financial decisions based on these changes yet. The Social Security Administration will be sending detailed notices to all beneficiaries, explaining how these changes affect your specific situation. Let me put this in perspective for different situations many of you are facing. If you're a single mom on SSI with 2 kids, these changes could mean an extra $200 minus $400 per month when everything is fully implemented. That's real money that could cover school supplies, winter coats, or help with utility bills. For retired folks on Social Security, you're looking at more accurate cost of living adjustments that actually reflect what you're spending money on. No more tiny increases that don't cover your Medicare premium hikes. If you're a veteran dealing with both via disability and Social Security disability, you should see an end to the benefit offsets that have been reducing your payments. Many of you could see increases of $100 to $300 per month. For those of you caring for elderly parents and disabled family members, the higher asset limits mean your loved ones can maintain a bit of financial security without losing their benefits. Now, I want to be honest about some potential challenges because I'm not here to sugarcoat things. First, implementing these changes is going to put stress on an already overwhelmed Social Security Administration. Expect some delays, confusion, and the need to be patient as they work through the logistics. Second, the funding for these improvements comes partially from closing tax loopholes and partially from extending the full retirement age gradually for future retirees. If you're currently under 40, your full retirement age might be pushed back a few months. Third, there's always the possibility of legal challenges to some of these provisions. While the law is signed, certain aspects might face court challenges that could delay implementation. Here's your action plan, and I want you to write this down or screenshot this part. First, don't make any major financial decisions based on these changes until you receive official notification from Social Security. The details matter, and your individual situation might be different. Second, if you're currently on SSI and you've been afraid to save money because of the asset limits, start planning how you'll handle the higher limits responsibly. Maybe open a separate savings account specifically for emergencies. Third, if you have a pending SSDI application, contact your attorney or a representative to ask if you might qualify for the new fast-track processing. Fourth, Keep all your Social Security documents organized and in one place. You might need them as these changes roll out. Fifth, and this is crucial, be aware of scammers who will try to use these changes to steal your information. Social Security will never call you asking for your Social Security number or bank account information. All legitimate communications will come by mail to your address on file. As we wrap up, I want you to understand that this is just the beginning. This legislation includes provisions for regular reviews and adjustments, meaning we're not going to wait another 30-plus years to update these programs again. There's also bipartisan support for additional changes that could come in the next few years, including further expansions of work incentives and improvements to the disability determination process. The goal is to create a Social Security system that actually works for people in 2025 and beyond, not one that's stuck in the 1980s. Look, I know many of you have been struggling for years, watching your benefits lose purchasing power while everything else gets more expensive. These changes won't solve every problem, but they're a significant step in the right direction. You've worked hard, you've paid into the system, and you deserve benefits that actually help you maintain dignity and basic security. Whether you paid into Social Security for 40 years or you're disabled and unable to work, this system is supposed to be there for you. I'll be monitoring how these changes roll out and keeping you updated every step of the way. If you found this information helpful, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss my updates. I post covering benefit changes, new programs, and practical advice for making the most of your resources. Drop a comment below and let me know how these changes might affect your situation. I read every comment and often create new videos based on your questions and concerns. Remember, you're not alone in this, and small improvements can make a real difference in your daily life. I'll see you in the next video.